Hi, I'm Big Bear.
And I'm Little Bear.
And this is the reason why we haven't been around for the last 6 months. But he's very cute, though, we must admit. And welcome to Brown Bear Wargaming. Run VT.
Boom, 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 boom.
Right, welcome to Armies on Parade 2023. Now, last year, I randomly didn't plan on entering Armies on Parade 2022 in my local Warhammer store, but I'd created this bit of scenery for a board build, and then decided to slap a load of models on it, and I actually came second, which I was a bit shocked at. So then we decided this year we would plan and enter Armies on Parade 2023 properly. Now, the idea of Armies on Parade really is that throughout the year you go to your local store and you create different sorts of models throughout the year just to help you build up your new army. And then at the very end of the year, in November, you create some sort of scene or board or setting and you put your army on parade. Those were some examples from local stores, and these are some more professional examples that go a bit crazy in OTT. Now, you can enter online, not just in store, but there are rules. Now, there are rules on the size of the board, and so for us, we looked in the shed and found some little bits of scraps of wood, and we opted for this one here, which was from Little Bear's old wardrobe. Now, first things first, as with everything, draw a vague sort of plan of what it is you kind of want to do. Now, using the ideas that we'd seen online, we decided we thought we'd go for some sort of box effect. Now, we found this wood was some sort of MDF type material, but it cut okay. With a craft knife, but it was pretty sharp and it did take a while, which is why I decided to do it rather than Little Bear. Giving a Little Bear a pretty sharp knife probably isn't the best idea. We gave it a good sand down and that sorted the edges out pretty well, and then we used a good old glue gun to stick down all the sides, inside, outside, in there, shake it all about, and eventually, after a little bit of gentle persuasion, we managed to get it to stick.
So next we just cut up some of the polystyrene into bits and pieces. It was very messy, so we whipped out the trusty Hoover. Then there was lots, so we got out some PVA glue to stick down our polystyrene, nice and sticky. Then we sketched out where our models were going to go on the polystyrene. First pen didn't work, so we whipped out another one. I really like the idea of this river, so that's what we did. We then laid out our models just to see where they would go, see if they would fit on the board. And they look really good here. We forgot to film building up all these hills on the board, but oh well. Then we got out some filler with a little glove, filling all these holes up so there's no polystyrene balls showing, so it looks like a hill, not like polystyrene. So yeah, and then we got out some paint from school, old school paint, and covered the whole polystyrene. We stippled all this paint on just to give it a bit of more texture on the polystyrene.
And at the minute, it just looks like a big mound of mud.
Then we put some grey on the cliffs and in the river, just to give it a bit more of a colouring, just so we kind of know it's a cliff and not just a load of mud.
And we stippled this on as well, and it gave it a better effect.
Then we filled the river with some blue contrast paint. I can't remember what it is. And then we got some light blue paint and just filled the river with it, so it looked nice and cool. Then we covered the board in PVA glue. Put the sand on it to give it a bit so it doesn't look like mud. Then we let it to dry. Well,
before we did that, remember a little bit, we had to spray it with a PVA and water solution just to make sure it all stuck.
Then I stood there with a hairdryer for about 30 minutes, just trying to get it to dry a bit quicker.
And that didn't work, so we put it in front of a radiator. So while it was drying, Little Bear got on with painting these models from the Dominion set.
I really, really like these Army Painter Speed paints.
Yeah, Little Bear absolutely loved these. Really good detail, and he just likes how the paint flows off the brush into all those cracks.
This is Ydanstra, one of the leader models for Stormcast.
So it took about 2 days for that to fully dry, and then Little Bear decided he wanted to do this river a bit better.
So we went into the shed and we found this old silicone, which we probably should have used for the shower, but oh well.
So then it was my turn, and I decided to sketch out a very similar idea, but for my Space Marines and my Hawk Lords that I've been painting up for the last few months. So I had my idea, and I started off with a bit of wood, the same as Little Bear, but I used a saw, and it went everywhere and made a right mess. So I went for this for sale sign that we found in a skip, when we were out a few weeks ago, and I decided to use that to chop it up. Now this was so much easier because it's like a corrugated plastic. It cut really easily, wasn't as messy, and is as light as a feather. So a really good material for your Armies on Parade board. I used a good old glue gun, the same as Little Bear, although we're on the last dregs of the glue that we had, but stuck it all together, stuck it in all the crevices, and that got it all glued down perfectly. Now I used some more of this polystyrene. This was from an old TV that we've had stored in the attic for a while. Absolutely perfect material. Now I did use a small blade, and again the polystyrene went everywhere, so if I did it again, and I did learn from my mistake, I got a blade that had a longer bit and cut it at a slight angle, and it cuts much cleaner. So, once I'd got that bit, I had loads of offcuts and I decided I was going to make some sort of runway. I still didn't really know what my idea was, but I just thought I'd go with the flow. So I had, as you can see, several attempts to cut into a corner and didn't work it out, so I got a piece of paper and then that worked. That was much better. Used these offcuts of polystyrene and I was able to create this runway sort of effect right into the corner of my board, and I thought that that would be a really nice way of however I was going to give this board a little bit of a story. Good old PVA, the same as Little Bear. Make sure that you stick it all over because the PVA is great. It's a very strong glue, but it does take a long time to dry, so you are going to probably have to weigh it down with something to leave it to dry, and it is going to be an overnight job. We did try using a glue gun on a practice piece before, but it does melt the polystyrene. Then I went off-plan completely, and using all of these offcuts of polystyrene that we had lying around, I just started sticking stuff everywhere and cutting it down and sticking it randomly on this board. I couldn't really work out why. It will make sense later once I've kind of thought about it and had some more of an idea. So it probably is best to have an idea of what you actually want your Armies on Parade board to look like in advance, but hey ho, it is what it is. I then got some more filler, added a bit of water and covered the entire board with filler. Now this is important because when you want to paint on top of the polystyrene, you want to make sure it's going on top of the filler because otherwise the polystyrene does start to show through. It was also much better because you could give the filler a little bit of texture, and when you add the paint you can really see the texture on the board, particularly on those flat surfaces on the walls. That really helped. So we painted the entire board. I painted it in a couple of different colours. Once it dried, I did take it outside and I added a little bit of spray can to it. So I then also, before I went out to spray it, I had these lids from Little Baby Bear's food that he started eating recently. I found these bits of Lego and these trees, and I thought, oh, this would be a really cool effect to have on the board. And when I put them on the board, it looked ridiculous. So yeah, they went in the bin, start again. Now, this is my Hawklord logo. Yes, it is the same as the Raven Guard logo, but I thought actually what's going to happen is this is going to be a planet of a different army of some sort, and my Hawklords have come down and landed on it, and they've graffitied everywhere because they've captured this outpost, and they're going to then summon for the Ultramarines. The Hawklords are a Ultramarine successor chapter, so I thought that would be a pretty cool little effect to have. So I cut out very carefully the logo, used a gold paint. I started off with a dry brush, it didn't really work, so I stippled on the gold paint, really cool. And then for some reason I put it on the runway that I'd created there, but hey, it looks quite cool. And then I realised there was a bit of pink paint underneath it, but never mind, we can touch all that up later. So there we go. Once the board's finished, you won't actually be able to see all that and it's all dried. So then we got a little bit of PVA glue, and I wanted to add a little bit of base ready on this board. Now, with hindsight, looking how I've done this, I quite like the scatter effect rather than the straight lines that I actually did. Good old hindsight, next time I wouldn't make those lines as straight. But, hey ho, it is what it is. That's the board that we had, and I like that scatter effect, but it's not there. Now, here's where I had my idea. I decided that this would be a Necron planet. It'd be the Necron planet of Fortress, and I thought I'd get these Necron hieroglyphs and put them on all these random triangles that I'd stuck on. So I started with a white pencil crayon, but actually going on top of the filler and going on top of the polystyrene, it just dug in and it wasn't particularly great. So I just got some white paint and painted them on, and then splashed some green over the top of those afterwards. But I really liked the idea and the story behind the Hawklords capturing this outpost at this Necron planet of Fortress. So just to add to it, there was a couple of other things that I made out of some MDF. I made some spiky balls, and there was a pipe there from the Command Edition set, and then it's a case of placing your models down onto your board. So these Hawklords I've been painting up over the last couple of months on and off. in between Little Baby Bear sleeping and eating, and we've had the summer holidays, which has been great. So I've been able to create this Hawk Lords chapter. We had loads of Raven Guard transfers, so it made sense rather than getting anything new to paint them together, and I really like the purple and the gold effect. And I found these pink tufts and they offset that purple so nicely. So I've added those into the background on the Necron planet in some of those the base ready areas, but on each individual base as well, and separate on the Dreadnought with the golden gun. And I'm really liking this board. I absolutely love it.
Finally, I placed all my models on just to see how it would look on the board, and it looks amazing. You can see these orcs have stolen the Gryph-hound from the Stormcast, and the Stormcast have come to retrieve it back with all their army. And you can see your Dancer in the background, all finished in all its glory. And then there's a river with the silicon on the top. I think it looks awesome.
I'm really proud of Little Bear with those models and how he's painting them. So the next thing you have to do is pack your models up and take them to your local Warhammer store. Ours is in Darlington, and Mark met us there. Luckily the weather was kind to us, but we did prepare by shoving them in black bin bags. And then Little Bear got to get his models out and show them all to not just the store manager Mark, but all the people that were in the store playing. There was my board as well, and there it is in all its glory, both boards. So that is our entries to Armies on Parade. Now we're very lucky because in our store there are 2 prizes. There is a prize for the best 40k board, and there's a prize for the best Age of Sigmar board. Ooh. But there's also a prize for the overall store champion. So we have, in essence, 2 chances to win. So here's what you can do. On the 18th of November, you can go in-store, if you're local to the Darlington area, and vote for my Hawk Lords big board, and you can vote for Little Bear's Stormcast and Auric Warriors board. Pretty good. However, I think you can actually vote online as well. So if you can, we'll share it on our social media channels. Please, if you can, vote for us, and then we can see if we can improve on my second place finish last year. I still don't know how I came second last year. But anyway, thanks very much for joining us. If you want to enter Armies on Parade next year, I highly recommend it. It's a really good way just to showcase your models, gives you a real target for what you can do ready for next year. I've been Big Bear.
I've been Little Bear.
Happy gaming.